let's move on. Our next clip from the Tactical Marketing webinar helps us get a better handle on who John Smith might be and teaches us the fundamentals of joint ventures. It's always great to review basics. And if you've never heard the MYM version in Rich's spin, number 9.
So let's get into some of the fundamentals of joint ventures, and then I'll go through some examples. So let's start with this easy to start with question. What is a joint venture? Leveraging existing customer relationships by offering other businesses products or services. Now, two major kinds. Number one, you let other companies market to your customers and take a percentage of the sale, or the opposite, other companies let you market to their customers and take a percentage of the sale. Now, what side of this you get in on is going to kind of depend on the joint venture partner. There's going to be some joint venture partners that it's going to make more sense for you to go after their customers, and some where it's going to be vice versa. And I'll show you some examples of this, but I want you to do is I'm going to give you some what I call joint venture starter questions here in just a minute. I want you to start thinking what kinds of companies could you do joint ventures with, okay? The financial terms of these joint ventures can be very flexible. Please do not ask me the question, how should I set this up financially speaking? The answer is it's just simply a negotiation scenario, okay? Here's all I'm trying to say. Look at what amount of money would make sense to you and go ahead and go after it. Now, there's certain situations where you may not have to pay anything for joint ventures. In fact, I can list a few of them where what you're doing and what you're selling and what you're offering is so valuable to the customer base of your joint venture partner that they would gladly give you access to their customer base without requiring any kind of a payment in return. And in fact, you may even be able to get them to pay you to offer your products and services. And I can give you a great example of that. In my business, I get paid cash money to do webinars for certain groups, to do speaking for certain groups, and to write articles for certain groups. Now, if you look at that and you think about it for just a minute, and not to really tip my hat too much and show too much of my cards, but how cool is it when I get paid cash money to show up and speak to my prospective customers that if I had not shown up, I'd have no opportunity to contact and communicate with them. And now I'm showing up with the endorsement of the organizer of the event, who typically has credibility. Otherwise, why would people come to the event? They're giving me money to come. It's called, not only do I not have to share the profitability, I actually am getting paid. They're paying me extra on top of what I might make from the event. Now, that's not always the case, and it's not always true. The reality is, if some of these organizations said, hey, look, we're going to charge you $3,000, $6,000 to show up and speak to X number of people, it would probably be well worth it to make that payment. But the reality is you've just got to look at your numbers. I don't want to go into a huge discussion about understanding your numbers. Let's suffice it to say for our purposes that you are probably in most cases going to have to give the joint venture partner some money. Typically, the money is going to come out of the back end of the resulting sales. It doesn't always have to, and I'll give you some examples in just a minute. But here's what I want you to know. It can be very, very flexible, okay? So let's talk about the steps for pulling off a joint venture. First thing you've got to do is identify types of partners, and you're going to use what we call the joint venture starter questions, and I'll share those with you here in just a minute. Next, identify what type of joint venture would be the best, and we just talked about the three kinds: endorsements, consignments, or gifts. And then you're going to create the program. Now, I'm going to go through this with you in detail in just a minute, but here's the key on this. You don't want to go to a joint venture partner and say something like, hey, I've got this great idea. What if you did this and this and this? And it becomes very conceptual. What you want to do is create the program and take it to them and say, hey, what if you took this email right here and you sent it to your customer base, and then they ordered this program right here or this service right here, and it's got to be spelled out. You cannot sell it conceptually. I'm not saying it's impossible to sell it conceptually. I'm saying it's a lot harder. What I would request that you do and what I would suggest and recommend that you do is create all the elements of the program so that when you go to your joint venture partners, because the fact is it's going to be somewhat unusual and unfamiliar to them, this concept of, hey, doing a joint venture, I'm going to recommend that you give them all of the pieces already done so that they can look at it and go, oh, okay, I got it. Here's what's bad. hey, what if we sent a letter? Here's what's better. Hey, here's a letter. What if we sent this? Okay, you see what I'm saying? Of course, then the next thing to do is seek out partners and execute. That seems pretty obvious. Let's start with the starter question.
Okay, I get it. Create the marketing program for the joint venture in advance to selling the idea to the dry cleaner or cake shop or whomever. Brilliant! It's harder to say no to a well-executed idea. And you know how to write the marketing thanks to Rich. He even has sample joint venture letters you can copy and paste from in your Insider Marketing Toolkit. He thinks of everything.